Good morning, everyone. Welcome to American Scoutsers Morning Coffee or Tea with American Scouser on a Tuesday morning. So now, hopefully, everybody will remember this. But Tuesdays, I'm pretty sure, I haven't done the Tuesday and Thursday variety in a while. But Tuesday was Kermit's Day. So Kermit is here because it is Tuesday and it is good to be green. He's green and loving it. So he is back in action. In honor of Gally over here, he'll get the inside joke. But yes, Kermit is here. Mark will be here joining us shortly. You guys will remember Mark from the 24-hour Pod-a-Thon. He joined us in the wee hours of the morning. It was like 2 a.m. or something like that live. So I don't think it was Yimmy Tuesdays. I'm pretty sure that wasn't it. I know it was Tuesday. I'm pretty sure it was Kermit. I cannot remember Thursdays for the life of me. I was looking at the mugs and all the mugs were like, me, pick me. But I have no idea who Thursday was. So hopefully somebody over here will remember the Thursday mug so I can get him back in action. Otherwise, there's a new candidate. So I can have the new candidate join us. But yes, for Tuesdays, Kermit is in the house. Coffee's here, running a few minutes late. Thanks to me, totally forgetting the Tuesday, Thursday thing in my alarm. So there was a lot of running around going on now. But yes, from now on, we are back Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Eastern every freaking morning. So bring your coffee and tea and we'll get into action over here. Speaking of action, let's bring Mark on. Mark, what's going on, man?
Morning, how's it going? Yeah, I'm good, man. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. Like I said, I was just telling the audience. By the time I realized, I woke up and I was like, oh man, I'm waking up so early now. Like my body is waking me up. I thought it was 6:40. Then I see it's 8:40, and I'm like, oh shit, it's 8:40. So it was like a lot of running around going on. But back in action over here, as the audience gathers around, because the Tuesdays, Thursdays are back. For a while, we were in a good rhythm over here, but back in action. Okay. So we'll get to the headlines. We'll talk a little bit about that. But first, I was introducing Kermit back in action because Tuesdays is Kermit's day. Are you a coffee guy or a tea guy?
I drink quite a bit of both, but basically before about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it's all coffee, and then after that, it's got to be tea for me.
Was it always like that, or did you get Americanized over here?
Oh no, it's been like that for a little while. I mean,
Okay.
I used to work early mornings, so you need a cup of coffee in the morning to get yourself going, isn't it? Like that's what that
I
was.
don't know because when I was in like England, well, this is like decades ago, but like it was all tea, and I wasn't like a coffee. I mean, I'm Turkish, so we drink tea like 24/7. It felt like because when we went back
Yeah,
there, I did not realize it until I left Turkey how much tea was being consumed on a daily basis. Whereas, like, you go around and everybody constantly offers you tea over there. And I know they're like the little tiny glasses,
yeah.
but man, that black tea is like strong shit. So if you keep drinking that throughout the day, you build a lot of like caffeine tolerance over there. But yeah, once I came over here, I did become a coffee guy. And kind of like you, if I do drink something hot after 3, 4 o'clock, it's usually converts to tea. And my buddy Daniel, who was from Liverpool, has kind of like had me hooked on tea with like milk because that
Yeah,
was a very British concept to me.
yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
don't do that in Turkey, you'll get slapped. So yeah, American Scouser and those no Americans on here. Hey, you trust me, when I go online, I get called Yank still. So there's that. But yes, we're pretty multinational over here. Okay, so the season started. I do want to get and talk about the game and everything like that and get your take on it. But before we go to that, let's hit a couple of the headlines. The biggest one being probably the Doak thing being official. I know from a little we know you from that night, you probably had difficulty separating from Doak as well, or are you okay with this move?
Oh, do you know what? Right, in general, I'm kind of okay with it. I know. I went to uni in Scotland, so I've got a lot of Scottish friends, and they've got big expectations on Ben Doak. We should say he's changed his name, hasn't he? Is it Ben Gannon Doak now? He's taken his mum's name.
Oh, really? I did not know
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. He's gonna have his mum's name on the back of his. He's gonna have his mum and dad's name on the back of his shirt. So there's a lot of expectation on him. A little bit that we saw him last year. I thought there might be something there. There's a lot of anticipation around him. I know he went on loan into the Championship last year and he did really well. I think, part of the model is that we can't have Isak without getting rid of some of our other players, right? We can't have the top shelf suites without selling some of the other stock that we've got, right? I like that we've got a buyback clause with him, because I think that if he does light up the league, he does go on fire. I mean, he's big and strong, he's quick, he's scored goals at kind of every level that he's had a run at. So you do think there's an opportunity here that he might go on and develop into quite a decent Premier League player. I also think for someone like at his stage of his career, at his age, he just needs minutes. He's going to get those minutes at Bournemouth. So and again, Iraola is a good manager as well, so he's going to figure out what's the best to do with him. I like to think, actually, in a way, it's a what I would call like a permanent loan, right? Because we know if he sets the league alight, he scores 40 goals this season, we'll be right back in there for him if he fits what we're trying to do next, right? So yeah, I think it's a kind of smart move. Obviously, I'll be honest, I'd have preferred that if he didn't go, because I get attached to everyone who's involved in the club. But it's a kind of necessary evil in this point, and again, I think it's just another triumph the way the club's run, of how well we're run. 25 million for a player that has barely got any minutes for our club is absolutely incredible.
I mean, that's based on like potential as well, I guess. I don't know. Like, did you ever get the feeling? I mean, see, like, you're a hard guy to ask this stuff, but when I looked at him, just looking at this offseason alone, right? When you look, I feel like Rio has a much higher ceiling and more likeliness to succeed than Ben Doak, even though obviously Doak is older, has a lot more experience, and we've seen a lot more of him. I just feel like he's one of those guys that will get lost in some games. Like, we'll do really well one game, but you probably won't see him around doing much. And I don't know, his size and stuff kind of scare me. So I think this is the best of both worlds. I mean, I'm a bigger fan of this than constantly loaning guys out. I mean, if you know, and do you think this is, now that we did this with Kwanzaa as well, do you think this is kind of like our new thing, where instead of constantly loaning players all over the place, we're gonna sell with a buyback, which I think is good for the player as well, good for the club, because you do have that buyback. I mean, it is 50 million because it's twice basically what you sell, I guess. That's what Sergi was had posted something on Discord. We were talking about it yesterday. And I don't know, 50 million for a really good, solid Premier League winger is not that much. Like, what did Elanga go for? 55 or something like that, right? So 50 is not bad, but you are getting 25 in case what you're probably afraid of is going to happen, where he's going to be an average player. Some good days, some bad days, but not good enough for Liverpool.
Yeah, so the two things are that I want to mention when we talk about his transfer are, when we go back to when we the first time I came on this show, when you guys were doing your 24-hour broadcast, Darwin Núñez had just left, and we were talking about how the standards and the performance expectation at Liverpool are so high that even someone like Darwin Núñez, I'd be confident in any league in the world he's going to score a decent amount of goals. The way Liverpool fans talk about Núñez is that he was a failure, in the same way you might talk about Andy Carroll or a number of other strikers who've come through the club, where actually Núñez, in terms of the amount of goals he was involved in, was really high, right? Anywhere else in the league, he'd be one of their best players and be considered a hero, right? It's because standards are so high in the current setup at Liverpool at the moment, that they're like, he's good, but he's not good enough for Liverpool, which is like, exactly. we're in a really privileged position. I think with Ben Doak, I think it's the same thing, right? I think they know he's going to be good enough to play in the Premier League at some point. They know he's going to be able to do something. They just don't think he's going to be effective enough with to crack into our 11 over here anytime soon. He might be in 3 or 4 seasons' time. At the moment, they probably think, and I think this is right, that they feel they'll be doing him a disservice by him staying in the squad for 3 or 4 years, not playing many minutes. He's not quite at Curtis Jones or Harvey Elliott levels where they're going to be able to bring him off the bench to do something, or they think alternatives are better. The flip side of that is, and I always think of Ryan Brewster with this, right? Every time Jurgen Klopp got a chance, he would talk up Ryan Brewster. He'd be like, he's one of our best players. He's someone who got potential. He's got potential. The kid only ever came on for a few minutes at the end of games we were winning or games that we had no chance of getting back into, right? Eventually, they go and sell him. I think it was 35 million they got from Sheffield United in the end, right? And he turned up at Sheffield United, and bless him, he seems like a lovely kid, but he was just way off the level. And you're just like, oh, wow, Liverpool are playing absolute blinder over here. Every opportunity we've got, we've talked the player up, talked the player up, talked the player up. We've done this with Ben Doak, talked him up, talked him up, talked him up. Then they've gone and cashed in 25 million. We've got this buyback. So if he does, become a phenomenon, we'll be able to get him back at kind of a decent-ish fee. So I think it's an absolute, it's a business blinder we've played. We've used our advantage here as Liverpool Football Club. There's a premium now. Not only is Liverpool Football Club a place that's going to win trophies and create great moments for its fans, but it's also producing or bringing these players through the academy. I think for me, and I could be wrong, but I actually think with Kwanzaa it's slightly different, because I actually think going into last season, I think they thought that he could be a solution for something. I think they thought he could be and even I think the fact that he went to he's not in the Premier League, but he went to a big European club, right? Leverkusen are a team that would expect to be playing European football most seasons. And I think even the fact they sold it they were managed to get him off to Leverkusen probably suggests that they were expecting slightly more from him than maybe some of the other prospects that they've sold over the last few years. But overall, I just look at this Ben Doak deal and I just think it's an absolutely fantastic piece of business for Liverpool football.
I mean, I think so too. That's kind of like almost the way to go. Cameron is joining us for the first time. Good morning, sir. Grab a cup, join the conversation. Hopefully give us by the way, if you're watching us live right now, hit that thumbs up. I always forget to say it's automatically. Somebody should jump on. That should be like, Sergi, that should be one of your responsibilities to get everybody to hit that thumbs up, because it does really go a long way. But welcome aboard, Cameron. John says, Mark, were you the dude who made the Rocky analogy with Nunez? And yes, you were. You did make the Rocky analogy when we were doing the overnight.
Yeah.
I was going to come back to Nunez. Of course, you brought him up right away, but I will come back to Nunez, because even last night's episode, I did end up talking a lot of shit about him, even though I was not meaning to, but it was mostly talking about Ekitike and what I see and like from him that I never really saw as much from Nunez. I know you're a big Nunez fan, so we'll separate a separate section for that. But going back to the Ben Doak thing, I think, like similar to Brewster, I think you can be a player who's really darn good, but just not good enough for one. And I think with a lot of young players, look, and that's what I'm afraid with Rio, like people are getting ahead of themselves, or they expect him to come in all the time and stuff like that. He's a freaking kid. And I think the thing is, sometimes with these kids, we've done this in the past. I always go back to Ben Woodburn, for example. That was right when Coutinho was leaving. They were like, who needs Coutinho? We got Ben Woodburn. And then, like these young kids, the key is just not being good enough, but being good enough on a consistent basis. And I think that's what you don't sometimes get, like the Ben Woodburn would have a great game, and then you wouldn't see him for 5 games. You were like, where is that guy that was there 5 games ago, kind of a deal. And I feel like when we move on from players like Ben Doak, I see a similar route to like Wilson, like Harry Wilson, in terms of the career he will have. He will be a regular, decent Premier League player, but not one that everybody is going after because he doesn't do it week in and week out. For example, like Semenyo on the other side. Mind you, presence of Semenyo will only help him. But I'm just saying, in terms of being a threat every single week, scaring another Premier League team every single week, I don't see it from Ben Doak. But obviously, they saw something possible to spend 25 million on him. And if it does work out, he does become that player, then we get him back. Okay, yeah. Well, I was hoping like a bit more toned down version of asking people, but whatever works. If you can get everybody to hit the thumbs up, whatever works is fine. But yeah, so that's a good deal overall. Well, since you brought up Nunez, let's get to that real quick, because I did bring him up last night a lot, only because I was kind of praising Ekitike, and I didn't mean to shit on Nunez because he was an easy guy to root for, but we had this discussion. It was just not good enough, right? Have you seen stuff from Ekitike That's another good example, actually. Solanke, who was, I think we got him from Chelsea, didn't we? Wasn't he another one we stole from Chelsea
Yes,
Youth Academy?
Solanke's kind of trajectory is slightly weird, right? Because in a way, he's like it's kind of somewhat similar to Daniel Sturridge, because a lot of people thought that he was going to be the next big thing, and I don't know, I like we're here to talk about Liverpool, not Tottenham, but I think Ange didn't really get the best out of him, and last season was a difficult season. But when he leaves Liverpool and goes to Bournemouth, he lights it up for them, doesn't he? And that's how he gets another big move back to another big team, right? So, but Solanke came to Liverpool where a lot of expectations on him, and again, he's a good player, but he's just not at the level that Liverpool are looking for. That's the thing, right? Yeah.
Let's get to Ekitike, because what I saw from him, that's not the conversation yesterday. So I wanted, as a big Nunez fan, I wanted to get your take on it, because what I've seen from him, and I'm not talking the goals, and it was never about Nunez's like misses or anything like that, because that's going to happen with any striker. But when I look at him as a footballer, I just see so much more football smarts in him. And I know it's a very, very small sample size, but in terms of the pockets of areas he sees, when he presses, the angles he takes, as opposed to just like running straight at a guy and stuff like that. And more important, like the interplay he has when he drops down has been very impressive. And I was like I know, Nunez had his assist and stuff like that, but what we see from Ekitike in the first 60 minutes from that Bournemouth game, and even the Palace game as well, I don't think I ever saw that much interplay with Nunez, when he can drop back and actually like dictate play and then create space and go back. So you can clearly see levels, right? Even a Nunez fan like you should be, right?
Oh yeah, like absolutely. I mean, like Ekitike. So Wirtz is going to be an absolute superstar, but Ekitike is the one who's kind of come in and hit the ground running, isn't he? Really?
Yeah. Looks like it.
I think it's obviously easier in his position as well. In a new league, you're going to adapt slightly quicker. Where Wirtz is kind of in the he's got a whole new setup around him, so I think it's going to take him a few games to kind of get into it. But I mean, Ekitike, thus far he looks like a Rolls Royce, doesn't he? He's absolutely incredible. He looks like he works hard for the team. He's got that kind of hunger in him. I like that there's a bit of adversity in his career as well, where it's maybe not quite worked out right from the get-go. So he's had to kind of figure it out a little bit. I think that's a trait we see in some of the best signings we've had over the last kind of decade or so. The performances that we saw against Crystal Palace and then against Bournemouth, there is some issues in it for me, but from what we're seeing in terms of going forward, definitely in the first half of games, it looks absolutely brilliant, and I'll definitely agree. I think he is an upgrade from Nunez.
What did you see that you were like, not liking this?
It's the way that Palace and Bournemouth scored goals, basically. I don't know if you've seen the clip afterwards of Jeremy Carragher talking to Arne Slot, where after the game, where they talk about how easily basically Bournemouth were able to score. I think the balance in the midfield isn't quite right. I think they probably just need more minutes together. When Gravenberch.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Ekitike. I'm sorry.
Oh no! Oh, sorry. No.
Okay.
No. But part of that is I'm pretty sure I heard Slot say some of the players aren't fully fit yet, and I think Ekitike is one of them, right? Where
he is. He mentioned himself in the post-match interview that 60th minute he started cramping, and that Premier League is no joke, and it's for real. That it's a lot more physical and stuff like that. Yeah. But I mean, heck, those 60 minutes he gave in both games, we have struggled mightily once he came off the pitch. To be honest, because we had no targets, man, and he does it all. Really, he comes back and he starts to press and everything like that. So. Both games, the moment he came off, we started to struggle like offensively. But yeah, I mean, he is definitely an upgrade. And like I say, it's early goings, but I mean, there's a moment, I think it's in the first half, where he sprints back full speed. It's very similar to the goals we conceded in the counter, where they're coming big time with numbers, and he sprints all the way back to win the ball and like kind of get back to the defense and stuff like that. So, like an overall package wise, extremely impressive to see. I don't know, like he came with a huge price tag. It's not like, oh, he was cheap. It's amazing. What a deal kind of a thing. Do you think it's because all the eyes are on Wirtz? So when we see this guy doing something really amazing over there, like, oh yeah, he's over there too. Like it kind of went out of the radar.
So what I think about the two transfers is that Wirtz, everyone in Germany, everyone who's watched him for any period of time was like, this guy's the real deal. It's the complete package. And I kind of felt, I felt in my lifetime, this is the first time Wirtz is the first player I can think of where Liverpool have ever signed where there's absolutely no detractors, and we signed them in their peak. I remember when I was a kid and we signed someone like Karl-Heinz Riedler or Jari Litmanen, and people were like, no, he's a bit over the hill. He's probably come to the back end of his career. They're brilliant players. Or even when we signed Fernando Torres, a little bit like with Ekitike, there was a few detractors going, he's maybe not quite what you're going to get. We're not quite sure what he's going to develop into. With Ekitike, there definitely was a few detractors going, we're not quite sure. He didn't do it in Paris. Can he do it in the Premier League? There's a few question marks over him. Where with that, what excited me about Wirtz was the fact that absolutely nobody was saying that, and everyone thought he was the right guy. I think that when you watch Ekitike, you can see that he really wants to score goals and he really wants to win football matches, right? So you're just like, as a fan, that's the first thing you're looking for, right? What he wants to impress himself onto this game. So that's why I was like, all right, I'm not as long as you like, and it goes back to the comparisons with Nunes. Well, I was always like, regardless of what you think about Nunes' tactical indiscipline or his kind of general indiscipline or his finishing, for me it was always that because he wants to win games, he'll always create that moment, right? And you kind of get that with Ekitike, except he doesn't have the tactical. So from what we've seen, he doesn't have the tactical indiscipline, and his finishing appears to be slightly better. I mean, as you say though, he's only really played 60 minutes of real life football.
It's a very small sample size, but some of the things you see, you can kind of project into the future. Like some of the touches he has on the ball, I really like the pockets. I mean, the first goal, he almost like sees that pocket, slides over there for McAllister to pass into. In the second goal, he finds that pocket to run into to clear space for Gakpo and has that good pass. Like some of the things he's doing, I can kind of see. And you can kind of project towards the future and say he gets it. Like he gets spacing, he gets tactics and stuff like that. And really, really like him coming back and like doing like those one-touch passes and build up and stuff like that. We were kind of talking last night. I know anytime we see somebody do good interplay, we go back to Bobby. We're like, did we find another Bobby kind of a thing? But we've done that with quite a few players. But I never said that about like Nunez in that sense. It was a very easy guy to root for most of the reasons you said, like, really willing to work hard. You can tell, he was going to do whatever it takes, whatever he can do, he was going to do. But there was a kind of a ceiling to what he could do, aside from like the hustle, the energy, the physical traits were more than the tactical traits. I feel like, and honestly, I've been kind of shocked. We were watching and we were talking about it with Angie. One of the knocks on Ekitike was like he's not strong enough despite his size kind of thing. I don't know. I saw a guy kind of like winning a lot of duels this weekend too. So that was another upside. But I think another reason, like you said, like Wirtz were like, oh, it's ready. Let's do your thing. Let's watch it. I think we have a little bit of fear after Nunez with Ekitike as well. So almost like nobody wants to get excited because we've been hurt. We've been hurt before. So we don't want to get excited and have another like Nunez experience is what it feels like.
Yeah, I also think the other thing is, right, our heroes are still there. We've just won the league. The Salah, Virgil. We know Trent left, but everyone else who was really involved in winning us that league is still there. So we want new heroes. That's the nature of being a fan, right? But we also kind of don't need new heroes. I
True.
would say what kind of one of the from watching the game on Saturday, on Friday night, I was kind of surprised. I've become surprised at how much we're going to end up playing totally differently to the way we played last season, right? I think losing Trent is quite like it's massive in the way the defense is going to be set up and the way the fullbacks will end up playing, which also changes so much of the way we're going to end up scoring goals. We knew this. We talked about this in the lead up to it. We all read about it and talked about it. But actually, now that you've seen it play out, and you're like, wow, this is it's so different. I think it's going to take us a little while to get into the rhythm of it. I always think the way the league starts is that you have your 2 or 3 games before that international break in the beginning of September, and those games are almost like the prelude to the rest of the league, right? It's like you can never win anything. You can't win the league in those first games, but you can definitely lose it if it all blows up for you, right? And actually, though. These games are almost the kind of the end of the preseason. I mean,
players it's like a second preseason almost.
Second preseason, yeah. It's a totally different midfield we're going to end up with, totally different defensive line we're ended up with, totally different attacking options we're kind of ended up with. So, kind of, I think let's see how we are in 2 or 3 games time. I think our midfield will get stronger once they kind of figure each other out, and then eventually, I think Konate hasn't been playing particularly well. But at some point, his head will snap back into it. We should be all right.
I mean, Jimbo says Trent did not really defend anyway. Madrid are not going to find that out. I think more than I mean, you were never going to miss. I don't think any of us ever thought we're really going to miss Trent's defending, because you can't miss something that's not there. But the only thing you do miss, especially on the right-hand side, I feel like, is there is no fear when, like Frimpong gets the ball in his feet on the right-hand side that people had when I think that's the main difference you're getting when we're attacking, especially when it's like a set defense and we're kind of moving the ball around, trying to like create space and everything. There was a moment when Trent got the ball, and if he looked up, there was a fear in the opposing team in terms of like, is he going to find that pass? So people try to close him down, try to chase him down, try to prevent him, which also opens space for others, because literally your right back is being chased and trying to prevent from the ball getting to your right back. Konate had the ball a lot more easily because there was no pressure on him, because obviously, they were more worried about Trent. So it was more like, Konate, do your thing. I don't care. You're not getting the ball to Trent, kind of a deal. I think that's the only thing you're going to miss, because now Frimpong gets the ball and you don't get that fear. It's almost like, I mean, when Kevin De Bruyne, for example, came on the side and looked up, you were like, oh, shit, when you were rooting against City not to score, because you knew he was going to find that pass and stuff. So that's the only thing you're missing. But that's why we kind of made these changes as well. You did add a lot of speed, so you can definitely see that. There's a lot more speed there with like Frimpong and Kerkez. And I don't know, like with Wirtz, I think it was one of those where I think you're right, where we know it's a given product and we want to see it like right away. Like, we press the play button. We're like, well, it's not playing yet. So it's going to take some time, I think. And maybe it was not the ideal game for him. But I don't know. I think there's so much there. And I think the midfield balance will be different with Gravenberg in there as well, because it felt like we were just too naive in attacking. Otherwise, it's not like we got overrun in midfield or anything. We got scored on encounters. And that was mainly due to not having any attacking discipline, like everybody running into the box. And, like we had a 5-on-2 up to 1 to have a counter where you're like, basically 5-on-2. I'm sure Slot will address that, because that's just not, I don't know. That's like, that would drive me nuts if I'm Slot. You're like, you guys got to be kidding me. We're up like 2-1 and we got countered 5-on-2. So it felt very naive. It almost felt like a Klopp team playing as opposed to a Slot team playing, really, when we gave the goal up. But a lot of comments about Chiesa in the chat. So I wanted to kind of get your take on that. We talked a little about it last night. I don't think, it's one thing for him to come in and score against Newcastle. You're like, oh, he can come in and do things and stuff like that. But this was such a big moment. I feel like even if we were on the fence about keeping him or selling him or loaning him and stuff, it was such a big moment in the season, in his career, at least his Liverpool career and stuff. I feel like the scale would have tilted now where he will stay, even if we were on the fence.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think the impression I got, and I think I talked to you about this, that when you were on your 24-hour broadcast, is I felt like he might be the kind of player who would leave in the last few days of the transfer window when a team got desperate to sign someone attacking. I can see him going to someone like Tottenham Hotspur, or if another side in Europe ended up losing attackers or whatever, or maybe even ended up going to Newcastle in exchange for one of their players if we were in for any of their players, something like that. I felt the club were maybe looking for a better offer for him. If you're going to spend 25 million on Ben Doak, then how much is a proven Italian international worth? That moment, though, I think absolutely changed everything. Right, I think, like a lot of Liverpool fans, I thought we'd bring on Rio. I also think that I looked at that bench when it was 2-2, and I just felt we are so light for all the player movement. We've left ourselves so light, and I just thought, actually, the minute that goal went in, I was like, we can't sell him, because any player is able to do that, and due to the tragedy, that would have been when Jota comes on, right?
Yeah.
And he definitely would have taken that chance as well. And so I agree. I just don't think we can sell him. I also think, actually, I mean, Chiesa's not even that old, but he's older than so many more of our players, and we need a little bit more of experience, because I also think if you look at our squad, it's really young players, and then, like, in football terms, someone in their mid-30s is old, right? So then it's like really young players and really old players, and it's like there's almost like a generation of players missing. So I think we'll keep him. I can see comments talk about Leone. I know, according to some report last week, Leone spent the first few nights staying with Chiesa. I think that's another reason to keep him, right? We've seen him do that in the past. Where
I can see them like making pasta and stuff. Like, all days.
Yeah. Brewing coffee and moaning about the scarce weather, right? So I think that's another reason to keep him. I think if he's happy to stay, I reckon keep him. I think, weirdly, in this system, he might end up getting more shots, not shots, more minutes than he did last time. I also think that going into the if on day one you feel like the bench is light, imagine when it's mid-December and you've just been playing every 3 days or every 2 days, and you're like, right, now it's really light. So I think there's an element that they've got to keep him at this point.
Yeah, because I know when the 11 got announced, I was like, man, I really like the 11, but you look at the bench and you're like, ugh, like, what will we do? I feel like, and I was almost happy. Obviously, it paid off because Chiesa scores, but I like Rio in a game like that where it was so freaking physical, and I feel like it's really not fair to throw him in a game to be the hero at that age and kind of set him up to fail almost. So I was kind of happy that it was Chiesa, and I think with the experience and stuff like that, he gets that goal. We talked a lot about it yesterday, like the way he kind of anticipates that, the way he finishes that. You can see the quality he has. I mean, we've seen the quality he has. That's another thing. Like, we know, you were talking about Wirtz earlier. Like, we know what we have there. We've seen this dude do certain things, and it's not like he's so old now where we can say, like, oh, those were his days or whatever. It's just a matter of kind of like getting that back. I don't know if it's confidence. I don't know if it's comforts. Like, I know we sometimes make, like a joke of things or, take it lightly, but there's something to be said about for Leone having Chiesa and Chiesa having Leone as well. Like, it might go both ways. We're thinking like, oh, somebody to mentor Leone, and we might make joke of it with the pasta and stuff, but there is somebody else over there who gets you and kind of like, maybe if you're having a tough day, can kind of like help you through and stuff like that. What do you make of Leone, by the way? Like that move, I know in the comments, I think AR was talking about, and I do agree, by the way, we do have that gay deal done. It almost feels like when you look at that bench right now, you can't just put all your eggs on Isak's basket and just like wait. You do need 2 to 3 players, because like you're saying, for depth, I think we know now you can't really count on Bradley. You can't pencil him as the number one because has shown that he's never healthy for an extended period of time. So you do need 2 to 3 players. I guess where are you at with that overall in terms of like Leone coming in? Do you think he's just like a project to learn underneath, or is he going to be playing like a big part in terms of minutes, especially if you don't get Gay, I guess? But
yeah, I can't confess I've seen too many minutes of him from beyond what I've picked up on social media since we since we signed him. But everything I read coming out of Italy, people are very excited about him. Italy isn't a place that has produced a lot of good footballers in the last kind of decade or so. Seemingly, we have 2 of their brightest prospects at the moment with Chiesa and Leone. It's I also, when I first saw pictures of him, I know this is a slightly odd thing to say, but when I first saw pictures of him, I didn't realize how tall he was. But he's like, is he 6'4", 6'5"? Because I was worried. I thought with Gay and Leone, I was like, we need, the way Liverpool play is we need big, imposing centre backs, right? We need direct replacements for Virgil and Konate. But then when I saw that he was 6'4", I was like, this is great. Like,
yeah,
all the signs sound positive. If obviously we never know these things, but I was kind of surprised how easily we were able to get him as well. I thought by how well regarded he is, I thought they might try and hang on to him or get a little bit more money for him. But yeah, he's a signing that definitely excites me. I often worry with centre backs. If you look at, for me, the reason why it took Liverpool so long to win the Premier League is that we just never quite had the depth in defence. And there were so many young centre backs and so many young defenders we'd signed who we thought these guys could be the next big thing. And it never quite worked out for us. They were never quite at the level that we needed to, right? Needed to get. So I always think with defenders, and we've just been through this with Kwanzaa, right? Where being very, very good, a very good defender at 18 is different to what you would consider a very good defender at 25, right? Correct. So he's like, what, 6-7 years away from reaching anywhere near his peak. He's there to learn the game. He's there basically to learn of Virgil, and our expectation shouldn't be that right next week or next month he comes in and he's there next to Virgil and he's being superb. Our expectation should be in 3 or 4 years' time, will he develop into players? I'm also conscious that at Liverpool, Italian players haven't had the best time. I also think in general, young centre backs haven't had the best time in the Premier League when they come from abroad. Particularly when they come from Southern Europe, they often either don't really adapt. And I remember in Gerard Piqué's book, he talks about being in Manchester and he didn't really like it at all. So, but that obviously was almost a generation ago, right? So I think there's a lot of work to do when you sign a young player as a defensive young player to get them into the way Liverpool want to play and get the best out of them and making them feel comfortable in the city. Obviously, Liverpool Football Club have come on leaps and bounds in those regards the last decade or so. So hopefully he could be he going forward, he could be a massive signing for us.
I mean, his price tag says we just didn't buy a tall dude. Like we don't spend that much money on somebody because they're tall. He looks really good on the ball. I hate kind of evaluating out of like YouTube like videos and stuff like that, because I can pop up a couple of YouTube videos of me and you would think I was the biggest shits. You would sign me for like 30 million. So I don't put a lot of stock. And like you, it's not like I watch a lot of Parma games to know much. I don't even watch that much Serie A unless it's one of like the big boys playing another big boy or something like that. So but just the price tag overall says that we think pretty darn highly of him to invest that much money into it. I'm almost afraid to ask what he said, but tell me, what did he say? Because I probably do not like really regularly watch True Gordy, so I don't know what he said. Do you know what he said?
He compared weirdly, I just saw it just before I came onto this. He compared the Jota tragedy for Liverpool fans to how Newcastle fans might feel about Isak leaving, which I mean it's
guys making a career of insensitive comments, huh?
Yeah. I don't know what's wrong with that guy, but he His EQ is obviously quite low. I, I'll be perfectly honest with you, right? I'm a little bit worried about this game on Monday. Not because I think, Liverpool are definitely the better side going into it, but I think this has turned into, before we've even got there, kind of the Battle of St. James's Park, right?
Yes.
Anthony Gordon stoking it up afterwards in those horrific green shirts that Newcastle are wearing, stoking it up afterwards. The fans, Newcastle fans, stoking up after around it. Some of the comments. I just want to make sure. There's no way of doing this. If I was a Liverpool player, it would totally get into my head. I think about this whole thing, because you'd be worried about big tackles coming in.
Yeah.
Bruno Guimaraes and there's a few other Newcastle players who I feel could be quite heavy footed if they wanted to be. This game is getting quite nasty, and considering that Newcastle United are doing exactly the same thing or they're in a situation with Wissa from Brentford, which is almost exactly the same as the Isak situation, then you think there might be, and also on top of all of it, right? As much as I love Liverpool Football Club and I love watching football, it's like my favourite thing to do. It is just football, right?
Yeah.
I think the history of Liverpool Football Club is littered with tragedies, right? And maybe the Newcastle fans haven't lived through it or don't have the history of tragedy in the same way that Liverpool do, and maybe that's why they seem to be pushing it a little bit further. I'm not really sure what's going on there, but I think Newcastle fans need to tone it down a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of see they're gonna make it like the Battle of Isak at St. James Park or something like that. It's not like, if they win, Isak is gonna be like, oh, you guys are better, then I'm gonna stay here or something like that. But Jimbo says he almost mentions Salah. I mean, seriously, yeah, the dude is Mr. Insensitive, and but that's why I rather not even give time to those guys. I mean, he mentioned it and I hadn't know what he said, but it's almost like if you're that freaking ignorant about, and if you can't comprehend, I think like your EQ comment is like dead on. If you cannot comprehend that, it's just like, and this is not a kid. I mean, I can excuse maybe somebody young and over passionate and be like, you know what, you haven't seen life yet, kid. Like you haven't seen loss, you haven't seen pain, and actual tragedy you haven't seen yet. If it was like an 18, 19-year-old kid saying that, I would excuse them and be like, you don't know me any better. But this is a grown-ass man, and if he can't differentiate the transfer and death, I don't know what to say. I mean, I don't know if he like did he correct it afterwards, or he sounds like he doubled down with all the people he freaking listed over there. But it's just, I mean, he's done this before. That's why he's not on that show anymore. And everybody kind of run away from him. Like there's no, it's like the light went on and everybody scattered away from the dude, knowing they didn't want to get caught in the crossfire because of his insensitive comments. I think it was against Muslims at the time, right? The one that he made that got him, it was something about bombs or something like that. I can't remember that comment.
I haven't followed his career, but I mean,
well, he was on that show. I can't remember what the hell the show was.
He's not the kind of person that does much for me, to be honest.
Yeah.
And yeah, what an absolute plum. I didn't know that he'd been Islamophobic, but I mean, it's interesting.
He was on the show. I can't remember the name of the show. Hopefully somebody in the audience will remember, but it was very well known. It was a YouTube thing. It was a bunch of different teams represented. I mean, all those guys have their own channels now. And fairly successful ones, and they all abandoned them. Like Lawrence and all these guys were on there together, and he mentioned something about, and he didn't he almost doubled down. He didn't apologize from it. I mean, we're live. I don't even think they are live. I think they're edited. So I don't know why it wasn't edited out in the first place. I guess I don't think they're live, at least, but we're live. Sometimes you might misspeak or you say something. You're like, hey, that's not what I meant. By the way, the kickoff is the show. Yes. And which is no longer, I think, because basically everybody abandoned when he didn't kind of back down from it and apologize. Because I mean, like I say, when you're live, you might say something and you might think, oh shit, somebody's going to misunderstand that, especially in the world we live in. I mean, you want to, it's one thing to go back and correct yourself and say, that's not what I meant, by the way, and clear the air. But no, he just like freaking doubles down on Ryan. What's going on, man? Lawrence going on with I can't remember the thing. Good morning, Ryan. How's it going? Well, it's overreaction week this week, so I kind of wanted to also ask you. We kind of did the overreaction with Liverpool for the most parts, especially like defensive woes and all that kind of stuff. But for the league, what is your overreaction? I mean, because everybody is like Tottenham is winning, United is not that bad, City is gonna blow everybody away. Where are you at? How much of this match day one can we take seriously?
Not much of it, if you ask me. I was watching Man United versus Arsenal on. That wasn't quite the final game. There was obviously a game last night on Sunday night, or even yesterday, right, where the Leeds Everton game.
Yeah.
And looking at the kind of papers this morning, everyone is saying Leeds are all right. They're going to be fine. Everton got a lot to worry about. I mean, we know what this league's like. For me, this league doesn't start till like mid-October, right?
Yeah,
that's when it gets going. When you've got to play when the European games kick in from the end of September, and then you start to play, and the cup games, so you start to play every 3-4 days. That's when the going gets tough, and that's when we see what's happening. I was, as a Liverpool fan, I was really buoyed by Ruben Amorim's comments at the end of their game, where he felt that after losing 1-0, that Manchester United could beat any team in the league or in the world. Well, I can't remember what he said. I don't pay too much attention, but I was like, this league is just so there's so much overreaction after match day one. Don't like, if you look at how Liverpool have got to the point where they're at, where I would say, A, this is definitely the most well-run Liverpool Football Club I've ever been in my lifetime, and B, I think we're probably the best run club in the world at the moment. A potentially best run professional sports team in the world at the moment. It's been through steady, slow progress. There's no magic bullet to anything. There's everything is slowly catching monkey. I feel like whatever happens, if we're throwing away 2-0 leads, if we're losing Community Shields, the whole point is that the people who run the club, the manager, have got enough in the bank with us as the fans that we don't need to overreact right now. We'll save that for other sides to do that. And I love seeing other teams do it. I've seen Arsenal fans throw their toys out the pram. I've seen Spurs fans think they're going to win the league. I've seen Man United fans think they're going to win the league. What a time to be alive if you watch the Premier League. Absolutely superb. I do think, though, overall, and I if I didn't watch the game, I'd definitely watch extended highlights of all the games now. I think the performance of the weekend was Liverpool. Like, are you not entertained after that 4-2 win?
Yes. I think, here's the thing. I think Klopp would be proud of that performance, but I don't think Slot is, just because of how it went down, kind of a deal. But it was a tough game. I think one thing that's given is not an overreaction that we can already see is refereeing is going to be shit again and inconsistent as it can be from our game. I don't know. Yesterday, for example, I thought that was a penalty because it's a lean, but how the other one is not stopping a goal. I mean, there was so much stuff this weekend that we still don't know. I mean, you're in the US now.
Can I tell you a secret? I'll tell you. Oh, it's not really a secret. So I grew up in West London. So the team that I used to go to watch was Brentford, because for most of my life, Brentford looked like they were closer to non-league than even the Championship. Not the last game, actually. I've been to a few games since, but for when they were in League One, when they were in League One, and then at the beginning of the time of the Championship, James Tarkowski was there. So I've got a bit of a soft spot for him, because that was the last time when I at that point I had to start really disconnecting from it. So firstly, that guy absolutely broke my heart with the way he behaved, having the temerity to score against us in the derby last year. I was like, this is too much for me, man. Come on, me and you have this thing going on. You don't even know I exist, but I'm always rooting for you, even though you're playing for the team I hate the most. But then when I saw that last night, I was like, I felt that was really harsh. But maybe that's my kind of Tarkowski slight bias coming into it. I felt, because I was like, yeah, he did kind of lean into it, but it was upper arm. Like, realistically, how much of that, when he'd realised that was going to happen, you can't really pull away from it. I
But then
felt,
don't lean. I mean, I know what you're saying.
yeah,
And as a center back, like I feel it. I feel the pain because there are times where like you're leaning in, thinking you can shoulder it, and you're like, oh shit, like it's not, and then it's too late now. You already started leaning. So you will like hit your arm and stuff. But yeah, in today's game where you're almost playing like you have no arms always behind you and stuff like that,
yeah.
because we didn't
But
used to
even
play like that in the past. So he's doing that, and it is in the back, but when he's leaning it, he's almost using his arm towards the end to make the lean bigger. So I was like, yeah, it's harsh, but at least I think the problem is, to me, that's a penalty because he's leaning. But the problem is it's so inconsistent because then there's like similar things, even worse things where you're like, then how is that not a penalty kind of a deal? We just don't know. We still don't know. We spent the whole off season instead of like clarifying it. We still don't know what a handball is. We still don't know how many times do we get pulled down from behind in the Bournemouth game? I'm like, how is that not a yellow anymore? Like, I thought whenever you pull down from somebody from behind, that blatant, because that's a blatant foul, it was an automatic yellow card. There were at least 2-3 incidents where somebody got pulled down and they didn't get a card. I'm like, how is this even a thing anymore? But it is Anthony Taylor, and then you have Oliver, so it's the same characters. If you have the same character, it's always going to be the same shitty movie. I mean,
look, if we got a penalty early on, I think it would have been 3-0 up, and I don't think Bournemouth would have got back into it, and then we wouldn't have had the whole coming back from losing the 2-0 lead, coming back from 2-2. The Chiesa goal wouldn't have meant. Now, look, this is Liverpool Football Club. We create legends everywhere we go. We create myths. Friday's game becomes a myth, instant myth, right?
Yes.
Like, so in a way, taking a longer view of it, it's all part of the what makes our club so storied.
Yeah, but it's so fun in games, so your points get stolen.
Yeah. No, I know. It all worked out well. The good guys won in the end of Friday, so it was all good, right? Do you know what? I really like the 8-second goalkeeper rule, because I think it's one of the few rules that they've brought in recent years that actually works to the advantage of smaller clubs. And I know Liverpool's one of, if not the biggest club in the world. So maybe it doesn't necessarily work to our advantage. It kind of does with the way we play football anyway, or the way I think we should be playing football. But I think making games quicker, I think is a good thing for the smaller teams and a good thing for the league. I'm just worried about, again, mid-November, is the referee thinking about those 8 seconds? Because I'm poor, I always sit behind the goals, right? And so I've spent a lot of time watching goalkeepers. And I was at Anfield a couple of years ago for when Man U came, and it was that terrible 0-0 game. I think it was one of Ten Hag's. Was it his last game in charge? No. It was. I think it was the time they came after the 7-0. Right,
okay.
And Man United generally must have spent about 10 minutes in that game taking kicks from just goal kicks and any goal kick around the box. So anything that can stop teams doing that, I'm so desperate for. I think it's it's
a matter of is it going to be enforced? Because I mean, they did have a 6-second one that was never enforced. They were like, well, they almost said, hey, 6 wasn't realistic, so let's make it 8 and enforce it. Because there was a rule. They're acting like there was no rule. There was a rule. You guys just ignored it all the time. I just don't know. I got to go back to the rule book and read, like, when does it start? So the goalkeeper, for example, that famous moment where Pickford does it, and then, for example, Ali does it later on in that Everton game to mock him. When you take the ball and then you dive onto the ground and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, has it started now, or does it start once you stand up? Like, when does the 8 seconds officially start? I saw it called this weekend, but it goes back to what you're saying. Are they going to call it? And now are we going to have another thing where it's going to be called inconsistently? Like, we're going to play Burnley at home. The guy's going to be like juggling in the box over there and nothing is going to happen. And then we're going to be giving corners and they're going to score on the set piece or some shit like that. So I want to see consistency, but it'll be good. Mr. Perez said the rules will be gone once Arsenal get hit a few times. I like Ian Wright, actually. I mean, at least he doesn't hide his bias. I like a pundit who doesn't hide his bias. Like, because some of them, like, I don't know, we were talking about Steve Nicol, for example, like almost like go the other way, try to offset it sometimes by being too critical and stuff like that. So Yeah, I mean, overall, it is like an overreaction. I mean, I know you can't win anything, but last season was like an outlier. But let's face it, in the last 3 to 4 seasons, when we were going to like freaking 90 points, 100 points, and stuff like that, you could lose it in the first 3 4 weeks, because once you fell behind, it was like impossible to catch up because of the pace of the league with like City and Liverpool at the time. My biggest concern was when you look at these schedules. I mean, away Newcastle is a really, really tough game, even without all this drama behind it. It's already a tough game to go to St. James Park, and then you have Arsenal and stuff. So there are games where you might draw points, like draw whatever, and it wouldn't be like a disaster if you came out with a draw away at Newcastle normally, right? Because it's probably one of the toughest away games you're going to go to. But I felt like when it was 2-2, I'm like, this is not good, because this is a game you have to get 3 points from against Bournemouth. So I'm glad we didn't drop those points, because that would have been, and not to mention all this conversation talking about overreaction freaking week after week would be well over the top.
Yeah, it's for me, it's actually a bit of a shame, right? Because we don't know at this stage. In a way, I thought the biggest result of the weekend for Liverpool Football Club might have actually been, in terms of the other games, not ours, might have been the Villa Newcastle game, right? Because but what I'm looking for at this point from the games where apart from our games is how much are the teams that I think are going to be in the wash towards the back end of the season, how often are they dropping points? In a way, I was kind of like, there was a bit of me that was rooting for Man United to get an equaliser in the last few minutes there, because I thought it'd be massive for Arsenal to drop points.
Yeah.
I kind of think it's a bit of a shame that our next two games could well be quite big towards the end of the season, right? They're, you know that Arsenal game, Liverpool Arsenal has been quite a big fixture the last few seasons. To play it third game in, when these teams, both sides are probably going to come into it slightly undercooked, or maybe at the point of starting to look a bit cooked at that point in 2 weeks. I would kind of much prefer to have seen both these next two games, even in a month's time when we've had a few more games under our belts. Obviously, the way the fixtures list, it throws fixtures out no one has, or we don't have control of. And I also think from it was the other. This is my first weekend of being in the US during a big Premier League weekend where there was things in the line. I actually was here for Liverpool's last game of the season last year. But obviously everything had been finished. Everything was sorted. And I thought it was really interesting the way NBC actually sell the league. So I can also
what do you think of that, by the way, as like well, I don't know, outsider looking in some ways?
I think it's absolutely brilliant. I think it's amazing how much football is on. I obviously have just arrived here a few weeks ago. I'm a recently arrived migrant. I leave in a few weeks' time to go back to the UK. But we've got YouTube TV in our house, so we have NBC. I don't understand if you get to watch games for free in the UK, but in the US. But I think the fact that it's relatively cheap compared to how much it costs to watch football in the UK is absolutely massive. And I think the way they present it is absolutely incredible as well. Just the way it makes every game feel so important, where even Sky Sports in England have tried to do that. But it's not quite worked out the way. Or I think for some reason, what they're able to do here, which I think in England, football is just a much more tribal thing. They make you feel like the whole league is important. Where in England, I kind of really struggle to watch Leeds versus Everton on a Monday night. I'm like, why is this a Monday night game? Like, neither of these two teams have done anything in decades. Why is this of any significance? But over here, they really build up the occasion. I think the analysis around it is really top as well. It's really good. Because I think because it's slightly less tribal here, and that the idea of people just watching the league for the sake of watching the league is actually a thing. I think they can be a bit like go a little bit deeper into things where they can't necessarily do that in the UK. Where I think in the UK, Liverpool fans are only watching for them talking about Liverpool Football Club. Not that many people care about what Jamie Carragher thinks about Burnley's chances of staying up this season.
Yes, I think that is a big difference, actually. No, I mean, people always poo-poo like Peacock, and like you have to pay for NBC's Peacock service. But I love the Goal Rush, for example, where you kind of like see all the other stuff from the games and all that too. But yeah, I think you get much more access, and that's a really good point. Actually, I didn't notice that. That's why I asked you, like, as an outsider seeing that, because because that's what they do with the other sports in the US over here too. It's like it's the NFL, eat it kind of, that's why how they present it. It's not just the Eagles, so I think they know how to market. They definitely know how to market sports. My biggest fear is there's a lot of shit things they do that really ruin the sport experience as they market it. I hope they don't bring some of that to like soccer.
I would love tailgate. You can't really get tailgates in English stadiums, but I would love.
I think the English version of tailgating is like the pubs before the match.
Yeah. When I say you can't get it, because almost all the stadiums in the Premier League at the moment are inner city stadiums. I think I've never been to Burnley, so I don't know where they are.
But I think like even like Soldier Field, it's right on like like Navy Pier over there in the middle of the city. But there's an area already designated. Like when they make the stadiums, they're like, so what are people gonna tailgate? Like they already build that in there. Whereas that's not a thing. And I think I don't care about that as much. Although it is fun to do. I just hope they don't bring some of the extra, like the commercials and stuff like that. I can already see some of those things because I feel like, the Premier League and in Europe, they look at the sport and they're like, how are we not capitalizing on this as much? It's almost like they see NFL numbers, a sport that's already followed here. They're like, how are we not doing this like tenfold this with billions watching our sport? And I'm worried that they're going to take some of those. I'm all like I say, like the studio and all that kind of stuff.
The one thing I would say, right, is from a kind of sports marketing perspective, I don't work in sports marketing, but I work kind of adjacent to it, right? Is I think the thing about the way they sell the Premier League or football, or what I call football, what is called soccer in America, is they sell it as a uniquely kind of European, or whether it's Brazilian or South American, Mexican, or whichever league they're showing, they sell it as that experience. So it's like, for the next 2 hours, we're going to take you to England and you'll live in an English experience. So I kind of feel, actually, because of that, they can't over-Americanize it as well.
Okay.
But I could be totally wrong, and the next thing I know, I turn up here and they could be doing it in a totally different way, right? It's fascinating because I've been in Grands and I've thought this, how actually, like, it makes sense that it happens at really big clubs, because everywhere in the world where Liverpool play football, there is a huge audience watching them. But to me, what's interesting is that you can turn up at Brentford at the G-Tech Stadium and you will see ads for companies that do not operate at all, not just in London or the UK, but don't operate at all in even Europe, that are just advertising. You know when you see the Garuda Airlines adverts for that Indonesian airline in Liverpool, I'm like, it's so bizarre to me that they have decided that they want to advertise domestic flights from Jakarta to Borneo, in Jakarta to Bali. I've never been to Indonesia here, I'm just spitballing, on this side of the pitch at Liverpool versus Burnley. Like, that is, like, to me, it just blows my mind. Like, I totally understand why they want to do it, but it just blows my mind that it's become a thing. And I wonder if there's a stage above that where clubs and the way the TV record it and film stuff is that the ads just change. So you get deals for Verizon and Geico on the side of the pitch at Anfield for US audiences, and you get Vitality and O2 if you're watching it in the UK, and everywhere around the world you can do. I think there is another stage of how clubs make money and the league makes money from it, but I don't think we're going to start seeing ads during a sub or during a breaking play or anything like that. I don't think that will ever happen.
Yeah, I think one thing they've done is, I think that's one thing that Premier League has done is they have managed to make it global, and they were kind of like separating themselves. I mean, growing up, Serie A was the thing. That's where all the good players went, right?
Even for me in the 90s, right?
So like that was where all the good players went. It was basically the Premier League. But I don't think it ever took, and I don't think they ever capitalized on it and established themselves enough. Almost like the Italians took it for granted and said, there was a little bit of cockiness to it, right? Like they took it for granted. They never really capitalized enough on it to separate themselves and distance themselves. I think with the income and how well they marketed it and how they made it global, Premier League is so way up there. I don't know if, like, I mean, I could be wrong, but I doubt I won't be around to see it. But in 10, 15 years over here, I know somebody will sit down and say, remember when Premier League was the thing? Now it's this or something like that. I just don't see it happening because they really opened the distance up the way they marketed it and made it a global brand. And that global brand, like you're saying, like brings money that has nothing to do with the league itself because it's global. And that's how you kind of distance it. I don't think Serie A ever did that. And that's why you changed hands.
Am I allowed to plug some of my work?
Go for it.
Because I run a channel on YouTube called Football Smash YT. And we've got a show on it called Where's the Money Gone? And they, in the episode that's coming out in a couple of hours' time, they talk about Barcelona and all Barcelona's problems for money and how they've had to mortgage. Obviously, we all know that the thing that took Barcelona down was their desire for Philippe Coutinho to play, and it got too much of them. So they gave us all the money in the world, which we still use to this day to buy players. But since that deal, everything at Barcelona Football Club, apart from, weirdly, their academy, has kind of fallen apart, and they've ended up having to basically mortgage off their to pay for their new stadium and to kind of hedge their bets on how money's going to come into the club. They've ended up taking some huge debt on that, which they're going to have to pay just the interest on the debt for the next 30 years. So, and that's on future TV revenue, on future ticket sales, on future, even the boxes in the new stadium. They're having to pay huge interest on that. The Premier League clubs, in my opinion, it's the next 10 years, next 10, 15 years, the media landscape is going to change quite dramatically. And the way clubs make money off TV deals is going to change quite dramatically. This season, Premier League clubs will, in real terms, be paid less. That's just because of inflation than they were last season per game. And that deal is only, when they come to renegotiate their TV rights deals, it's probably going to be it's probably peaked already, right? It's probably going to be slightly lower than it was last time. There's a number of different reasons for that, but I think the Premier League being the top dog at the moment really puts the clubs with a really strong hand. We how many times Coutinho was one of those players that came to Liverpool Football Club, and the minute Real Madrid or Barcelona said they were interested in him, it totally turned his head, and there was nothing anyone at Liverpool Football Club can do. The Trent situation going to Real, I think, slightly different, but there were so many Spanish or players from Spanish
South American players and stuff, right?
Areas, that whose heads were turned by it. Where I don't think the next generation of player will think like that. They'll want to play in the Premier League. Who was the player that Brighton signed from South America? I can't remember. And he actually said, he was like, I always dreamt of playing for Brighton. We all knew that was a lie because, I mean, no 8-year-old 10 years ago was dreaming of playing for Brighton who wasn't from
Maybe
Brighton.
They're a huge fan of seagulls or something.
Definitely not one from Brazil or Argentina or Ecuador or something like that, right? But like, you look at the amount of money these clubs have, and also if you look at Liverpool, some of the better run Premier League clubs, is they diversify their revenue streams so much. So they've got so many different ways of making money. The hope will be for these clubs is that maybe they're not as reliant on the massive TV revenue the whole time. But it's I just think you don't know what's going to happen in the world anyway, right? I might finish this and get knocked over and run over by a car, and that'd be me. Don't feel bad for me. I've had a great life. As Liverpool fans, and like Liverpool, probably then more other. Not many clubs have had as much go on at a club as Liverpool have had over the last 50, 60 years. Look, in 5 years' time, if we end up, everything falls away and it all becomes rubbish, just remember this moment. Remember what it was like to be a Liverpool fan right now. How unbelievable the Jurgen Klopp boys were. How unbelievable, at least the beginning of the Arne Slot era was. How brilliant the players we've got playing are now. Remember what it was like when Chiesa scored that goal in the final minutes, and then Mo Salah scored again. Like, what a time to be a Liverpool fan.
Yeah, it feels like it will never end. But I mean, we started the show. If you haven't watched it, by the way, we started last Thursday, so it'll air every Thursday night or Friday morning. The Rival Bros show I'm doing with my brother, who's a United fan, and it feels like he misses those days. He's hoping those days come back when United was like on top and everything, and kind of like hoping for our demise. Because you never know where like the cycles always change, right? We've been there, done that. I mean, we had like decades of success, then decades of kind of like pain, even though at least within our pain we had like small moments of glory there. But that's like the biggest thing. You got to kind of enjoy the moment and appreciate it, because it has been, great era going over here. I think people who are maybe just joining the Premier League, especially in the US and stuff, don't appreciate that as much, because they have not seen the misery. And I think that's why they sometimes get like this bandwagon thing and stuff like that, because you haven't suffered enough to earn this kind of a deal. But hey, everybody starts somewhere, and these are definitely good times to be alive as a Liverpool fan.
I'm really sorry to hear about your brother. That must be a big
It is. Well, it's a great joy, I'll be honest. Like right now I'm just loving it. But he has come to a point, I swear, like he's in a fetal position on the ground where I don't want to kick him anymore. It's not even fun. But anybody who follows the channel, like, I mean, we've talked about this before. Last year we had a get together here in Chicago, and we went to a pub and we watched United Liverpool, the 3-0 away win. And yeah, I mean, I almost felt bad for him. So even his son roots for Liverpool, and it was a pub full of like, it was a pub full of basically us, Bickler, Galley, Gordo, Mitush, Ryan was there with us, Kelly. So it was all Liverpool people, and then him. And he had to watch an hour and a half of us celebrating, high-fiving, laughing, making jokes and stuff. So that he's probably waking up still middle of the nights with memories of that day. So, but yeah, definitely tune in on Thursdays. We will throw in the link, by the way, for your channel as well.
Oh, thank you.
Definitely sounds like interesting. So I'll put that in the comments as well.
Go
ahead, sir.
I was just going to say, I'm going down to Carragher's on Monday night Monday afternoon, to watch the game. To watch the Battle of St. James's Park, the Battle of Isaac.
Put in a good word for us again. Yeah, they were great, man. I mean, that night. Thanks again for like coming in and waiting around for a couple of hours.
That's what You Never Walk Alone's about, isn't it? It's not about being there to drink to get the beers cracked open and get the chicken wings on when we're winning. It's about 2 o'clock in the morning when your fellow Reds fans need you. Get out there and walk with them. Like,
and we definitely needed it. I mean, we were talking about it last night's podcast that this year's 24 hours definitely seemed a lot easier than last year's 24 hours. And you and like Adriana, anybody who popped on, who came on air is a big part of that. And honestly, like being in the same room, interacting, all the people outside, going back and forth and stuff, was a big help. But yes, Ron, welcome aboard, sir. And this is why I always ask for the likes and stuff like that, because basically we popped on and sucker Ron into joining us over here because of the likes and stuff we showed up on his feed. And that's why it's so important. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, all that good stuff. But that'll be it for us today. Mark, thanks a lot for hopping on, man. Hopefully we'll have you here regularly. We'll shoot the link for Mark's channel so you guys can follow that as well. Give it a follow. And I will be back tomorrow. I will be setting my alarm. So we will definitely start on time with John over here tomorrow morning. Take care, everybody.
Thanks for having me.